All right, everyone, welcome to this daily Sidereal Astrology forecast. So it is a big week in the astrology, and a lot of it does start here today, this Tuesday. Essentially what we've got right now Mercury in very good aspect to Jupiter, to Uranus. So today, I think in a general sense, I think it is a great day for open-mindedness, maybe a bit of adventure, just feeling a bit expansive in general. This is doubly confirmed by the moon in Sagittarius, actually, suggesting that maybe over the weekend or from yesterday, a bit of this transformation or healing or just the deeper dimensions of life really being brought to the surface. So the moon in Sag sort of transforms out of that deeper and into the more expansive, into the more open-mindedness. And we can certainly be feeling this way. So that's going to be the moon, of course. But Mercury trining Jupiter today really does suggest the mental side of that might be a good day for reading, writing, things like that. So along with that, we are transitioning into a very transformational part of the week, which is going to be Mars squaring up to Pluto and the sun going over the south node. These aspects do go exact around the evening of today and early morning tomorrow. So it is a transition in that sense, but it's certainly increasing as the day unfolds. So with Mars square Pluto, maybe feeling a bit of clash today. I'm going to talk about how to work with this, maybe something we can do to challenge ourselves, to face some fears, to make some changes perhaps that we do want to see. And with the sun over the south node, maybe doing some re-examination of the past, letting go of some past patterns, things that are no longer serving us, that sort of thing. All right, so that's the general look at the day. Let's go ahead and look at this in more detail when we return. All right, so there it is, the moon in Sagittarius. Yeah, definitely a day after transformation. Usually when the moon goes over the galactic center, which was last evening, and it's been very watery in terms of maybe doing some healing, uncovering more of the deeper dimensions of life, but now certainly a bit more expansive as we go throughout the day. So it does make it great for seeing the big picture, things in our life, maybe tapping into a bit of that adventurous spirit, and again, open-mindedness. Of course, we still do have the sun in Aquarius, so still great to be doing what we love to do, just being ourselves. Aquarius is all about freedom, and perhaps continuing to focus on where we can have freedom in our life. Freedom of our life and what we do, being an expression of who we are and of our ideals. Now, with that being said, of course, the sun is going over the south node, so we'll talk about that. There are some things that are being, again, let go about the self, maybe having to do with that individuality or something like that, which we'll look at in more detail. So let's go ahead and first look at this in terms of where we're coming from yesterday, which is Mercury in good aspect. All right, so we're talking about the mind, we're talking about a bit of this communication and learning and all that. That side of ourselves or of life or collectively is actually quite good. Mercury sextiling Uranus from yesterday does give us a bit of innovative thinking, right? And maybe we've had some new ideas from yesterday. Maybe we're mixing up the routine, or we're wanting a bit of change in our routine. Things like this. So very good for thinking outside the box. Very good for communicating who we are, expressing who we are again with that. And changing up that routine are great opportunities today. The sextiles are just sort of openings for that. Now, Mercury trining up to Jupiter, again, great aspect having to do with a lot of that Sagittarius energy of open-mindedness. Now, mind you, Jupiter is retrograde, so there are a lot of things I think we're reconsidering in terms of this, these belief systems, these possibilities in our life. And although we could be a bit optimistic with this and a bit hopeful for the future, I think still just kind of understanding that, these things that are possible are taking some time right now over the next 4 months roughly to kind of be reworked. And that's what we want to do, is kind of re-examine the possibilities in our life, if there's been anything in particular from last year, or re-examine our belief systems. What is our worldview? How do we see things? All of this more expansive stuff is going through a reworking. But again, Mercury trending up to that Jupiter retrograde is quite positive, does give us a bit of hopefulness or open-mindedness, and I think that'll be very strong today. So along with that, going into tomorrow, like I was saying, these challenging aspects, Mars squaring up to Pluto and the Sun going over the South Node. So you can see they're going exact right around the shifting part of the day. But as you can see, they're going to be within orb all day. So as the day unfolds, more of this energy increasing. So let's first talk about Mars square Pluto. This is Mars, the aspect of ourself, which is very much identified with our needs, with our personal wants. And it can be very instinctual with Mars, especially when aspecting up to Pluto. This is like our survival instincts when we hold on really tight, the things we want. It's that ego. Of course, the whole chart is showing aspects of the ego and of the mind and of life and the soul. But with Mars, specifically the type of ego, which is, the me side of it, or the identification side of it. And again, those personal needs of ours. So there is some clash with that today. And I think it's a good day to be aware of that. Maybe bring some conscious light to the ego, to the self, to those personal needs of ours, just to see and be aware of it, because subconsciously, and again, Mars can be very instinctual. Instinctually, we could be holding on really tight. And Pluto is saying that very well could be the case, both individually and collectively. And so, detaching as best as we can, letting go of anything that we feel like we want now, or want a certain way, or want to control, or something like that. It's not that we can't have our personal needs met. It's just suggesting that if it's too intense, if there's too much attachment, if we're identifying too much with it, then it can become very intense and clash there. So this could be just a feeling for some of you internally, could be an internal process, or it could be externally, something in your environment clashing or something like that. But again, the sort of remedy here with this is to bring extra attention to the self, just to keep everything nice and balanced with, again, those very strong personal needs, which could be brought to the surface today. Another way of looking at this aspect is that it's a great time to actually be challenging ourselves with facing some fears. So maybe asking yourself if there's anything that you've been considering doing, maybe since, mid-October. Mid-October, we had that conjunction with Mars and Pluto. Again, we come back to that time period. There's been a lot of aspects now that relate to that sort of general time, September, October, November, you could say too. But mid-October with this one, if there's been anything that you started, you're ambitious about, you want to make some change with, maybe some change in your life or something like that, now it's the first major challenges with that, okay? So challenging ourselves, as I always say with the squares, that's really the best way of working with it, challenging yourself. So in this case, facing your fears, being aware of them, and then initiating any change that, although might be very uncomfortable today, can be something that you do feel like is important for your life path or for your soul, or however it is that you're feeling this. So very good for making change, very good for facing fears to do that, and again, initiating the action to make that happen. Now, the Sun is going over the South Node with all of this, so it's suggesting that whatever this is, it's likely relating to a lot of past energy being released. All right, again, the South Node is the past energies. This can be past in this life, this can be past in past lives, but the important thing here is that we're becoming very aware, again, individually and collectively, of these past patterns, of these, again, sort of attachments. But with the South Node, it's more specifically these patterns, right, and these perspectives that we have on life. So with the Sun over South Node, we can become very aware of this. I do want to say, the sun shines. It's that bright, just light, and it's shining on the past, on the South Node. And so with that, we do gain a lot of awareness about, are there any unhealthy patterns in our life? Are there any unhealthy perspectives? Again, maybe about that individuality, maybe about our ideals in life. And so with that perspective, I think it's great to let some things go if you feel like they're no longer serving you, or they're unhealthy, or again, just like that square up to Pluto, making some change to make that happen, to bring more health and balance back into your life with your freedom, with your individuality, and all of that Aquarius energy. So very powerful. We'll talk about this again tomorrow after we sort of go through this transition. But yeah, certainly as the day unfolds, more of this very powerful energy collectively. And again, individually, this can be harnessed through what I always recommend with these challenging aspects is through extra attention. Maybe things like meditation can certainly help with this, bringing in a bit of presence in our everyday life, things like that. All right, so that is the day in a nutshell. Essentially what we've got is we've got Mercury very much helping all of this, actually. Very good aspect. It's nice to have that with all this more collectively challenging stuff going on. So again, from yesterday, innovative thinking outside the box, progressiveness is very good. Still today, open-mindedness, even though we're sort of reworking, rethinking possibilities, there can be certainly a bit of that optimism or buoyancy about the day, particularly with what we're thinking about. But there is this sort of clash collectively as we go into tomorrow of, in one case, seeing where we can detach from the ego, let go of any attachments, because again, attachments come from fears. But being aware of that is essentially the key with it, especially with the sun over the south node. And then again, making some changes that we feel like we may want to take that may involve facing fears, again, to make the changes we do want to see. All right, so that is the aspects of the day. Again, it is still a very watery time. We do have Venus and Mars in Pisces, so it is very important anyways to be very receptive, especially in those relationships and especially with those personal needs of ours. Mars squaring Pluto with Mars in Pisces, this is really about detaching and letting go of the things that maybe don't flow, right? That we're sort of clashing with anyways. Mars in Pisces is suggesting to sort of let go, see where the current of life is taking us, see where things are flowing, and then put our energy into that. All right. There's that Aquarius energy. Still great to be focused on the self and individualism, even though some things are being released with that. And again, a great placement for the moon today. Also Mercury and the moon very much supporting this time of, in this case, our emotional bodies, feeling optimistic, feeling open-minded, and perhaps a bit adventurous. All right, so I hope you guys have an awesome day. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comment section, or if you want to share your personal experience to help with the community. But yeah, have a great one, and I'll see you all tomorrow.